So let's start with what we have done in Model RealTime 12.1.4. So there is a new button in the code view, a pin to selection button, which works the same way as it does for the property view. So it basically allows you to lock the code view to a specific selected element. And that can, for example, be useful if you're looking at a code snippet in the code view and want to temporarily navigate away from it. For example, open a call function, but then later you want to quickly go back and work with that code snippet again. So that was a bit cumbersome before, but with this button, it's now much easier. We also fixed an important bug in the code view that I think some of you have noticed. That happened specifically if the triggers property page was open at the same time as you worked with the code snippets. And the symptom was typically that the code snippet lagged behind one element, so it showed code for the previously selected element. And it was actually caused by a workaround for an Eclipse bug, but we have now re-implemented that fix in a different way to avoid this problem. Then we have worked on improving the property page. So there is now a command that you can use for restoring a modified property to its default value in an easier way than before. This works for the C++ General and C++ TargetRTS property tabs. Some of you may know about a command called combine models. So it's an alternative to compare merge, which allows you to do comparing and merging models that are not versions of the same models, but are actually copies of a model. And one scenario where that command is useful is if you are continuously migrating some model from rows real-time, because after every such migration, all elements will get unique IDs, meaning that you actually get a new model. So in that scenario, the traditional compare merge will not work, and instead you can use the combine models command. So we have improved the combine models command to avoid reporting some false positives when it did comparison of two copies of a model. There are also many improvements in TargetRTS in this release, and one that maybe stands out is a new utility that makes it easier to wait for multiple events when you are in a state before transitioning to a target state. So it's a common pattern that you sometimes need to wait for not only one event, but several events to come either in order or in some unspecified order before you move to the next state. So there are now some new classes in the TargetRTS, which makes it easier to implement that pattern without having to use several states and choices in the state machine. And there are some other TargetRTS improvements. For example, you can now, by means of a new API in RTMain, set and get the application exit code. You can configure the priority, which should be used for events that you raise on external ports. We have made one function, getTask, in the RTDebugger class public, since there are some use cases when you may need to access it from your own code. And also we have improved the error handling if you're using the register layer macro. Previously, an incorrect use of that macro could cause the application to crash, but now instead it prints a runtime error. And there is also a new version of the utility for exporting model real-time models to code real-time. So the version of the latest art exporter is 2.03, which you can get from the utilities page on the Model Real-Time Info Center. So I will not go through in detail exactly what it contains, but you can read some of the improvements here on the slide, and there are actually many more that I didn't list here